Hello everyone, welcome to RPA Learners, and in this video we're going to see how to extract data from PDF and save the data in Excel using Robocorp. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna extract the data from PDF and we're gonna save that in the Excel. So this is a simple use case that we are taking today. And what are you going to learn at the end of this demo is there are so many things that you're gonna learn with this simple use case. The first one is you will get to know how to get the data from the PDF and how to save this in an Excel, and also how to use Regex in Robocorp. And also you're gonna learn the key things about arguments and the variables and how you pass the arguments between the keywords and use them in different keywords in the task section. So unlike the previous videos where we discussed about single keywords or multiple keywords, we directly did it in the task, but in this use case we're gonna implement it using the keywords, variables, tasks, and all the other basic syntaxes that are necessary for the Robocorp, and we will build it from the scratch. First, let me show you the PDF that we're going to use for this use case. Is this PDF? This is the input PDF that we are going to use, and from this we're going to extract this invoice number and the invoice date from this PDF and store it in a Excel. So let me show you the Excel as well. So here we have in A1 we have invoice number, and in B1 we have date. So we're going to enter the values in A2 and B2. Let me close this Excel for now. We don't need to use it. I have closed this, and let me go to Visual Studio. Now let's go ahead and start building it. The first thing that I need to do, I need to use the libraries. So what are the libraries that we're gonna use? First thing, first library is rpa.pdf. So we're gonna extract the data from PDF, so we're gonna use rpa.pdf library. First, let us write the keywords for the PDF extraction, and then we will use the Excel. We're gonna also use the Excel as well. So let's quickly enter that library too. And the library is rpa.excel.files. If you haven't watched these videos of all the keywords that we use in the rpa.excel.files, go ahead and watch them. It will be easy for you to understand the use case when you know the keywords. Okay, now we are done with the keywords. Then we need variables. What are the different variables that we're gonna use? We're gonna use the path. So let's mention it. When creating a variable, let's mention it as PDF path. And what is the PDF path? It is in the root directory folder. So we're gonna use the name directly, data.xlsx. Now our variables part is completed. After that, we need to enter the keywords. So let's go ahead and create the keywords. So what is the first keyword? We need to extract the data from PDF. So let's name this as extract data from PDF. Inside this keyword, what we need to do? Firstly, we need to get the data from the PDF. For that, let's create a variable which holds the value from the PDF, and we have a keyword which is get text from PDF. You see here it is giving us the keyword which is get text from PDF, and you need to pass the path which is okay. We also have the PDF path, so this is the Excel path, and let's name it as Excel path, and let's create another variable which is PDF path. So what is the PDF path? The PDF is invoice.pdf. Let me show you the file structure so that you can understand what I was printing here. We have data.xlsx, which is the Excel file path, and there is a PDF which is invoice.pdf. So we have invoice.pdf. So we are using those two paths. Here, get text from PDF. First we need to mention the path. Here we will use PDF path, and then there are two different types that you can get the text from PDF. One without any spaces between the words, and the other one is as it is, how it is looking at in our PDF. So for that there is an option which is trim. If you set this to false, it will give you with the spaces that are already present in the PDF. If you set this to true, there will be no spaces between the lines that is present in the PDF. So let's see that. For now, if you don't mention it, by default it is true, but if you mention it, it is false. So let's take it as a false, and then we will see how true works. And this is the text. Let me log this text to see the value, and let me log this as text. So far so good. And now let's name here, which is extract data from PDF. So let's save this and let's execute this and see the text that we are able to extract or not. If I execute this, let's bring the console app. So it is executing it right now, and let's see what is the values that we are getting from the PDF. After that, we will see how to get the invoice number and the date as well. So everything was good, it given us okay. So let's go ahead and see the log file here. If I refresh this, here we can see the data extraction demo, and there is a keyword which is extract data from PDF. And if you see in the log message, we were able to get the data from the PDF. And if you see here, there are /ns, which is it is not trimmed because we set this to false. And let's say if you want it to be trimmed, either you can leave it as it is. If you don't mention it, by default it will take it as true, or you can mention it as trim true. Let's see how this gives the output. If you don't use the trim, then you can actually mention all the lines that are coming down, and you can use the new line to actually separate those values. If you use it as a true, then everything will be combined, and the data extraction logic becomes bigger if you want to get it correctly. And if you see here now in the log text, if you see, there are no /n's in between. Then every space is trimmed now between the words as well. So in this example, or in this demo that we are looking at, let's take it as a false, and let's save this. Now we have our text with us. Let's go ahead and see how we can extract the data from this text. And let me create a variable which is invoice number. Let's say it is an invoice number, and equal to, on how we need to write a regular expression here in order to get the invoice number. But before writing the invoice number, the get text from PDF has another argument as well, which is, if you see there, the list of the page numbers. If you see in the output log area, it is showing us as 1 here. It is showing as 1. What is this 1 means? It is on the first page. In the second page, it will show as 2. So this is not a string. It is a list of values of the first page, second page, and the third page. So you need to remember it. We will discuss why I have told this particular point here. So that is not a single string, but we will write the regex to extract something for a string, not a list of strings. So we need to get the first value or convert everything to a string, and then we need to write a regular expression. But to write a regular expression, there is a keyword which is get regex matches. In this keyword, we need to pass a string and a pattern. So what is our string? Our string is text, and I already told that the text is not a single string, so we need to get it to a single string. For that, we need to take the first value of it. So we are mentioning is integer, so it is a list of the first value. Now our input string is ready, and we need to write the pattern, the regex pattern. And the question mark SIM is the single line and case insensitive and a multi-line in a regular expression. After that, what we need to look at is, first it need to look at the invoice number. After that, what it need to do, it might take a space. While writing a regular expression in Robocorp, you need to use double escapes in order to use it as a single escape. So we have given it as double escapes here, black slashes. So it is taking any space that is available after the invoice number, and it is taking all the digits after that. If you see in the PDF here, we have a space and then a number. That is the reason why we have taken it a space and a number and a number. So our invoice is ready. Let's go ahead and write the other date as well, which is date. Let's say it as invoice date. And if you, we can do the same thing, get regex matches, and you need to pass the string and the pattern. We need to pass the same string again, so we will use text of, we will pass an integer which is 1. In this, what it need to look at is, first it need to look at the date. So first we will write sim, because it will take multi-line as well. If you don't give it as a SIM, it don't consider the multi-line and it might give you an error. So first it need to look at date. What is the date? After that, it might take any spaces that are available. If you see here in the regular the date that is available here, date and then space, and then we have 4 digits, 2 digits and 2 digits. So let me go ahead and give the pattern accordingly. So for the first D we have 4 digits, and after that we have hyphen, so we need to make it as like this, and after that we have 2 digits, after that we have a slash, after that we have again 2 digits. So this is the regular expression for the date. And if you're not sure about the regular expression, open the regex101.com and give the input string, and you can find out what is the perfect regex that matches it. So let's go ahead, let's save this and let's try to execute this and see whether we are able to get the values of the invoice number and the invoice date from the PDF. After that, let's see how to enter these values into the Excel. And in the previous videos, we already seen how to enter the values using a keyword, which is set cell value or the set worksheet value. Both are same, and you can use a keyword called set cell format to format the values. If you see here, it's showing us okay, so it is executed well. Let's refresh this. If you go to the data extraction demo, and if you open this, you can see the invoice info here, invoice number, which is the invoice number 221944. If you see here, it is 221944. And let's go to the date. If you go to the date 2017 8/23, and if you see here 2017 8/23, so we are able to get the date and the invoice number from the PDF. Now let's see how we can enter it into the Excel. For entering it into the Excel, let's create another keyword, right? What is that keyword? Save the data in Excel. Let's say it as a save data in the Excel. So what we need to do, first we need to open the workbook. Let's open the workbook, and the path is Excel path. And the path is the Excel path, right? After that, what we need to do, we need to set the values of the particular cell. Here we have only 2 digits, so I'm directly using it. Set cell value. First we need to provide the which row it need to enter. In the first row we already had headers, so we are entering it in the second in A2. And what is the value that we need to enter? We need to enter the invoice number, right? That is the variable that we have given here, which is invoice number. And I already told you about the text that is coming out from the PDF, which is not a single string, so we need to consider doing like this. And here it is also a matches condition, so it is giving us a list again. If you see here, it is on a list. It is one value. If it has another value which matches the same condition, it will also give us that value as well. So we need to write the condition again. So we need to use this and write the first value in that invoice number, and after that we will repeat the same thing. Let's copy this and paste it here. This time we need to enter it in the B column and not the invoice number, but this time it should be invoice date. So it should be invoice date. Let me save this. So after that, let's save the workbook. Let's save the workbook, and in the task section we will provide this tab as well, this keyword as well. Save the data in Excel. Let's save this. Now what we are doing, we are able to get the data from the PDF, and we are able to write that particular variable into the cell value of the Excel, and we saved it, saved the Excel, and we are able to, we will execute those two keywords in this task section, which is data extraction demo. First it will extract the data from the PDF, and then it will save the data in the Excel, right? Let's go ahead and execute this. Okay, we got an error saying that if you see here, the invoice number is not found. If you go to the logs, and let me refresh this, if you go here, it says variable invoice number not found. When it is updating the value to the Excel, it is saying that the invoice number variable is not found, because in robot framework, when a variable is created in the keyword, it is a local variable. We need to return those values in order to use them in a task section. So how you can get these values, invoice number and the invoice date, in order to enter it in this keyword? So firstly we need to return those variables. For that we will use a return keyword and enter these two variables here, which is invoice number and the other keyword is invoice date. So we are returning these two, um, and we will enter in those two values there. But while returning these two values, we need to store these two values in a variable and then use those variable values in the next keyword, right? So we are returning these two from here, but how we can actually use them as a other variable data? So if you go into the task, in this keyword, after the execution of this whole set of keywords, we are returning these two. So we need to have another two arguments in order to save this. For this, here you need to enter those two arguments. Let's say let's create another variable. Let's call this as number, and we don't need to give it the same name. We can change the name. Let's call it as number and let's call it as date, right? And now the invoice number is saved in number and the invoice date is saved in date. So the keyword is giving those two variables, which is number and date, outside, and then we can use those values in another keyword. How we can use those in another keyword? We need to use arguments in the keyword section. So we need these two values in this keyword. So I will go here and create arguments to pass the number and the date. So what are the values that I am passing here is let's say it as invoice number and date, right? Let's say it as an invoice number and the invoice date, right? From here, these two variables can't go here, right? They can directly jump from this task, and these variables can directly go into this keyword. We need to pass them to the keyword that we're calling in the task. So we need to enter these two variable values here so that these values will be passed here first, and then the invoice number takes the number and this takes the date. So how we can pass them? Let's pass these two values here. Let's say it as number and let's say it as date, right? So now whenever let's understand this, right? This might be confusing for someone. Let's say our process is started and it will start with this, and it has two different arguments, which is before extract the data from the PDF. Whenever it calls this particular keyword, it will first execute this text here, and it is returning us two variables after the execution of that keyword, which is invoice number and the invoice date. And we are taking those two variables of the invoice number and the invoice date into number and date, and now we have two different variables, which is number and date, and we are passing that number and date to this keyword. So this keyword has two arguments, which is invoice number and invoice date. It will take these two values which are passing in, and it will use those two values in order to write them to the Excel, right? You got the point. I think you got the point now. And let's execute this and see whether we are able to write those two values into the Excel or not. I started the execution, and this arguments passing part is a little tricky. If you understand this, that will be good, that you are able to do a use case using the Robocorp, right? Let's wait for the execution to complete, and let's see whether we are able to get those values in the Excel or not. And it is done. It is given as the OK output. That means it is successfully executed the task. if you see, let us refresh the log, and if you go to the data extraction, and if you see here, after the completion, let's say we have two keywords, right? In this process, or in this robot that is executing, it has two different keywords. One keyword is getting the number. If you see here, it is in the number and the date. And if you see, there are two other variables that is created after the execution of this keyword, which is number and the date, which has these values. And this number and the date is an input for the next keyword, and it is using those values here. So this is it. Let's open the Excel and see whether we are able to write them there. Let me open the data.xls6 and the invoice here, 22219442017823. So let's see that, and this is how you get the data from the PDF. You see here, it is able to enter these values in these fields, and if you want to enter multiple data and extract multiple data from this PDF, you can do that too. Just increase the other fields that you want to enter here, and that's it about this use case. And it is pretty simple, but a lot of information that you need to get this. And from this video, I think you got the main point of passing the variables and the data and other things. And that's it for this video. If you like this video, please give a like. If you have any other doubts, please do mention them in the comment section below. And thanks for watching.